like it, you don't. I find it okay. I think actually every song on the Black Album has a wah pedal solo. Okay, and like I said, some of the pedals, they have different sweep characteristics. So you may have a different Q, you may have a different lowest frequency, different highest frequency, something like that. This pedal here actually emulates several different wahs. So it emulates the Crybaby. And I'm not really sure which one, because you have different generation Crybabies, so I'm not sure which one they're calling the Crybaby. So that is one particular sound. The Vox sounds kind of similar, but has some subtle differences. If you look at it, I think the minimum frequency isn't quite as low, and it appears to be a little broader, right? It's got a lower Q. Crybaby's got a higher Q. And then the Morley, again, a different character. These again are all from this Boss emulator. This is before I had actual Morley pedals. What I'd like to do is actually go back and check this wah with the actual Morley. And I've got a couple different, they're different generation Crybabies. And the big difference with them is the inductor they use actually. So they're all very similar circuits, but they have different inductors. You have the stack of dimes inductor, which looks like a stack of dimes covered in goop. They have the big black plastic TDK inductor. I got a couple of those recently. And then you have the phasal inductors and various things. And you can buy new inductors if you want to swap those out. Okay, now another variation on that is if we take some parts from the compressor we looked at, we take the wah, put it together, we get what's called a dynamic wah. That's a Boss uses. Also often called the envelope filter. And what it really is an envelope-controlled filter that's controlled by an envelope generator, or an envelope follower. So typically what it does is it sweeps low to high. It sounds like a wah pedal. And it does it typically at a rate, or it can be used at a rate faster than you could possibly, than you could do with your foot. So for instance, this example on a guitar solo shows something with a very thick envelope filter that you just wouldn't be able to do it right with a wah pedal. So that's one example where they're wahing every note. Another example that's really great, I don't have, the Red Hot Chili Peppers cover in Stevie Wonder's song Higher Ground. Flea uses the envelope filter on his bass, but he's slapping and popping. The interesting thing is it's set so that when he slaps, it doesn't trigger, right? Because you can set a trigger on this level detector, but when he pops, it triggers. So it's kind of whack. And it's just, only when he snaps it doesn't trigger the envelope. It's a cool effect. This is the dynamic wah I showed in the previous example. And it'll actually sweep up or down. So you can trigger it and have it sweep one direction or the other. And then it's also got the sharp variation. Now, what I brought in this week is my personal favorite, the disc wah module for the Korg PME. And that not only allows you to sweep up or down, it allows you to affect the resonance or Q, the cutoff frequency, the sensitivity, and then it also will allow you to operate as a band pass, a low pass, or a high pass. So you can do some stuff with that I don't know of any other pedal that does. That's a great envelope filter. Another example of a kind of fun, used to be very expensive device would be a vocoder. Now this is, if you look at like just the lower half, this looks just like a graphic equalizer, right? You've got a bank of bandpass filters, and you've got variable gain amplifiers. Well, in vocoder, the key difference is you've got a bank of analyzers. So you've got these bandpass filters. One of them is modifying the input based on the variable gain amplifiers, just like a graphic equalizer. But the control of the variable gain amplifiers, instead of coming from sliders, is coming from a power detector that's controlled by a different input. So what you're doing is applying the spectrum of one signal to another signal. When these debuted in, I think, the 70s, very expensive. Because you had to have two banks of bandpass filters plus power detectors, variable gain. It was very complicated. And I don't know of a popular example of a vocoder. There is a, digitally now you can do this quite easily. You either do this implementation or there are other tricks you can do. And so now you find vocoders built into keyboards and stuff because it's not that hard to do digitally. But the more common thing when the vocoder first came out is what I call the poor man's vocoder, the talk box. And this one you've probably heard plenty of. And it did the same thing. It used a vocal to modify the frequency response of guitar, but it did it in a very physical format. It just ran the sound into your mouth, and then you sit in front of a microphone. So that's an example of an actually intelligible word. And then you get other effects that are kind of almost more animal-like, and his pigs from Floyd. So other classic examples: Rocky Mountain Way by Joe Walsh had an extended talk box solo, and of course Show Me the Way by Peter Frampton has that like 10-minute talk box section. Okay. Okay. Let's finish up with the other interesting frequency modifying pedal is one that actually kind of doesn't modify the frequency directly. It's called the phase shifter. The idea was this was invented to simulate flanging. We'll talk about what flanging is. But it basically creates a whooshy sound. And the idea is what it does is you want to cancel certain frequencies. And I'll show you that in the delay-based effect next. But the way the phase shifter does it is instead of using an actual delay like flanging does to do this, it uses an all-pass filter. And remember, all-pass filter passes the magnitude completely unaffected, but varies the phase response. So what you can do is vary the phase response, and if you delay the phase by 90 degrees, and you add a second stage and delay it by another 90 degrees, well now you've got a phase delay of 180 degrees. Well, that can be cancellation of certain frequencies. And then you vary the amount of phase shift, you cancel different frequencies. And that's basically what a phase shifter is that it's a number of all-pass filters cascaded together, modulated such with a low-frequency oscillator, and then those are blended together with the original signal to cancel frequencies. So, common examples, Ain't Talking About Love by Van Halen. That one there. Supposedly he actually kicks it on just to get it on that one particular part. You can start to hear it a little more. And then the intro to No Quarter by Zeppelin uses a very thick, high, fast LFO, right? It gives you that warbly sound. And those are phase shifters. Okay, and then this is an example of my personal favorite, the small stone phase shifter. Very thick, full phase sound.